listening to the Live, Live, Play podcast.
Oh, how are you keeping, dude?
Everything's good. Excited that we can finally get this going, man.
Yeah, it's been it's over like nearly about a year and a half, 2 years since you were actually asking about strength and conditioning.
It's
And
it's crazy how things change, man.
Yeah, like from a simple DM to obviously following each other, like seeing what you're doing, seeing your progression, and just kind of an online friend, I suppose, really. Because watching your videos and watching what you're doing, it keeps me energized in being a coach and wanting to be a coach. And like that's what I follow. Like my Instagram following is I only follow very specific people because I don't just follow, like if you follow me, I'm not necessarily going to follow you unless I think your videos or your posts are going to inspire me, and they're genuine, and some of them are quite funny as well. Like I love your when you take the mick out of different styles of basketball players, and I'm not on TikTok, but that's it's a younger man's game. It's not my game. So pretty much with the podcast, I'm going to run just through a few questions about your coaching, your new appointment with Orangeville Prep, and then just I'd kind of like to talk a little bit more about on the strength and conditioning side and how you feel, because I work with a lot of basketball. Well, I've worked with a lot of basketball athletes in Ireland, and kind of the differences that you would see in Canada, like the tier level is huge. So
Right.
I'd like, what do an aspiring Irish basketball player need to put in their game to get to that next level? Like a few kids get scholarships, but not to the point where it's like basketball is still a non-paid sport in Ireland. Like even at the highest level, you don't get paid.
Right.
Like if you make the national team, that's great, but you're not on the world stage.
Right.
We're not known for a height or jumping ability. It was Irish, but we'll crack on.
Right. Yeah. No, and it's unfortunate, but it's not also at the same time, because I think there's also a silver lining in how everything is happening. Because if you really pay attention to it, what I've found is that a lot of times your relationship with money can affect how you view certain things, right? So with that being said, I found that when I was coaching intercity, and it was a nonprofit organization, it was more of a leeway with how people would basically let you do what you're doing, because they understood that you were volunteering your time, right? So a lot of coaches kind of like that, the aspect that they could be in a nonprofit organization and they could continue to do what they do, right?
Yeah.
When it gets to a certain level where you get paid, where money is put in, a lot of times it happens that coaches or players have to lose their identity to fit in, to be able to fit that bigger picture, right? So I think there's a silver lining. I think there's a silver lining to people not getting paid for what they do, because it means that the people that are doing it are truly the people that love it.
Yes.
And then the purity of that sport, the purity of that foundation stays. That's something that I've learned over time, you know.
That's like we've a sport in Ireland. It's called we've two sports. We've Gaelic, which is our variation of football, and we have hurling, which is like just running. It's 15 guys with sticks and a small leather ball, and it gets pretty nasty. It's the fastest field sport in the world, according to. But that's you play for the love of your county. It's pride. It's honor to play for. Like, I'm from Dublin. It's to play for the Dublin team. You don't get paid. You might get some sponsorships. You might get a few endorsements. You don't actually get paid as a player. and they're always talking about making it a professional sport so lads could be paid. And they keep coming back to, if it's a paid sport, you can't just play for your county. You'd be allowed to be poached and play for anyone. And it would ruin the sport, because the guys that come up through the ranks are only playing that sport because they love it. They still have to work a full-time job, but they love the sport. And you're getting, like you say, you're getting a true athlete, a true lover of the game, player of the game. So I see what you mean with that. It's like, once money comes into it, it can change it. But for, like, I suppose for you, let's kind of get into the reason why you're actually on my show is obviously a few years ago, about a year and a half ago, you contacted me because you were looking at strength and conditioning.
Right.
Where did you feel that for you as a coach, players were, why did you feel that you needed more strength and conditioning education, or you needed to kind of look into it more for your players?
Right. So, first of all, thank you for having me. I've always been a fan of sport. I've always been an athlete. So for me, the biggest thing was this thing that I love. Is there a way for me to get to make my living off of it? Right.
Yeah.
There's not that much money in coaching per se. Right. So a lot of times, like, you'll find like the really the coaches that are really into it, as time goes on, you'll see that these coaches will have to find other avenues to basically, either get paid, right? So a lot of them, what they want to do is they'll do private trainings, private sessions. Other people will do strength and conditioning and stuff like that. So with me, the reason behind why I found that I needed to head into that avenue and just understand the body a little bit more was because I was never like a gifted athlete, right? I always had to work for what I had.
Yeah.
So I was fascinated to help out others and gain an understanding of how you can achieve certain heights, how you can achieve certain levels of athleticism or speed or whatever. I was always interested to see how I can transform my body. And in that aspect, as you're seeing on my Instagram now, it's just about inspiring people to push themselves to be the best that they could be.
Yeah.
And when I started taking that approach, I knew I wanted to coach, but I also understood that there was gonna have to be a certain sacrifice, a certain lane that I would have to go to in order to be able to win my life, right? In order to pay.
Yeah.
And that's where I fell across your page. So I started researching functional movement and things like that. And the passion that I've developed for functional movement is I want everything to be related. I want everything to be game-like. I want everything to have a purpose to do it. Because as you can see, and that's why I love your page too, is back in the day, we used to everybody's training was kind of like training all the same way. Guaranteed if we had Michael Jordan back in this day, now, Michael Jordan would probably be training differently to adjust to the game that is going on, right? Because you remember back then, it used to be more slow movement, and that's more your lane. But like it used to be, based on what I've understood, it was more like 3 sets of 10, try to go as heavy as possible, and things like that, right? Things are kind of changing now, and that's where I kind of like developed like that understanding to be like, okay, things are changing. There needs to be a new way of thinking, and I thought I was a fan of functional movement because it really helped me. The releases. Retensioning, elastics, and things like that. So like that's where I kind of like developed that passion for it.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree that like it's how they've trained athletes and how even like now I would argue how they still train some athletes in regards to, like, I've seen one program that it had like I don't know how many, like I'd say 150 different type of dynamic squatting and lunging. And I'm like, well, have you assessed, and this is just a program that was sent out. It wasn't like you didn't assess the athlete. Does the athlete have bad mechanics when they jump? Do their knees buckle? Like, are their glutes on? They're firing their hamstrings that are making depth. I'd rather you do 3 sets of 8 really good squats than 150 really bad squats, because those bad squats are only compounding a bad movement, and eventually gives you an injury. But yeah, no, I think when it comes to you kind of young athletes, it's what's in their best interest. And for me, it's always been, how is your body going to be after you retire?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
you still have to live your life. You still have to be able to
Right.
walk to the shops, and like if you have kids by then, go pick up your kids, and you want to be able to play and run if you want to do all these different things. Now, but I also get the other side is that when you become a professional athlete,
Right.
you're being paid to put your body, you're paid to give up your body
Mm-hmm.
to
That's the
perform.
thing. Yeah.
And when you're performing, that's not health. And I'm more about making people healthy and strong for life. But the performance
Right.
aspect is different. And like
Mm-hmm.
any of my guys that come to me, we have that conversation. They'll say, well, what do you want in life? Because if you play basketball, the likelihood of an ankle or knee or hip or lower back problem is quite high. At some point, most players get injured. Same if you play rugby or American football, there's an injury, there's a type of injury that comes with that sport, in every sport. And my goal is
Right.
to make you as strong as possible to try and avoid those. So more preemptive, because I don't like the likes of rehab training. Rehab training is because something happened. I like prehab strength training.
Prehab.
So
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
stop it from
Like
happening.
preventative, like before
Yeah,
the fire happens. Actually,
yeah.
like, yeah. It's it's sorry to cut you off, but like it's actually fascinating. So like we have this as coaches, and I've learned this. We've had this one way to do things. And what you have to do is, if you want to have the best impact on your players, you have to have an individualized approach. And
Mm.
that's where I think like our philosophies kind of align, because I think that I think that a lot of times we say, okay, we got to do this drill, but then it's like it's so general that it's not going to be specific to what each athlete needs, right? Now, there's one thing that I know, is that when you look at my practices or you look at my warm ups and things like that, there's a certain time where I have to let the athletes do what it is that they need to do to get into the game. I'll give you an example. If I have an athlete who's a high flyer, okay, or he's going to work a lot more on coordination. So he might have a jump rope. He might do his little rope on the side or whatever. If I have a point guard who needs to calm his mind, he might do a little more meditation. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think the stigma of everybody doing their own thing and the coach not controlling what is actually happening is what's preventing some athletes to reach their highest potential.
Yeah.
Because we're fascinated by control. We're so this, we're so that. And back to the training part that you were talking about, everybody's different, right? A barbell squat for a 7-foot guy is not going to be the same thing as a barbell squat for somebody who's 5'2" or 5'3". You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's but there's going to be this aspect where they're going to see the guy's bigger, the guy's taller. Whoa, how come I could squat more than you? I can do this, I can do that. It's not the same thing, because somebody who's 7 foot, simple science, has a longer way to go down. So it's a much harder exercise for them. You get what I'm saying? And it's harder to manipulate the weight too, And that's a separate topic, but that's why I like kettlebells for that matter.
And Coach Dan John, I don't know if I mentioned him when we spoke last time. He's worked MBA, high school, college, everything, and he's worked with everyone, Army, Navy SEALs. The man is. I always talk about him. I think people are fed up with me talking about him, but like he stands true to pretty much how to make people the best at the sport. And he was saying. When he was coaching basketball players, someone over 6'6" doesn't need to squat. He can squat, but he doesn't need to squat. You can lunge, you can do hamstring work, quad work. You do not need to train him like a powerlifter. And that is kind of a misconception. Is like, well, the best way to get strong is by squatting, putting a bar on your back and squatting to depth. It's like, yeah, but that's the best way to get strong. But how strong does a basketball player need to be? Does he need to have a max? Does he need to have a 160 kilo back squat? No. An NFL player probably would, or no, well, much more than that. But he doesn't need to have that because, like you say, the law of the lever. Like that hip is going away from that knee joint, and that weight and that lower back and everything's taking a pounding. So yeah, the likes of kettlebell work and dumbbells and all this type of kind of other movements you can do to develop that athlete. And the individualized way you were saying is in like some guys who are amped up might need some meditative or some breathing training or technique work to kind of calm them down.
Everybody's different. Yeah.
And that happened to me. We made my school. Now this is like a war story, I suppose. But my year when I was finishing my senior year in school, we got to the finals. The first time our school ever got to the finals of basketball, which was a shock. And we were proud of what we did. Now we were going up against like a team called St. Andrews. They were like the top dogs there every year. And our coach on the day decided to do mindfulness with everyone. First time ever doing it. And freaked our two guards out. They could not function on the court. They went because he just, I was like, you can't throw something new in on the day of the event, right? And then our guys kind of felt it. They kind of felt the shit. He psyched them out by adding something new. I said, if you're going to train something, like, you're going to try. Now, we were never going to win.
Right.
We knew we were never going to win, but we wanted to have a bit of be the dog in the fight a little bit. But yeah, after I think the first 8 minutes, it kind of just the guys they just lost all. But it's like you don't introduce a new training method the day off. Like if you want to do that mindfulness, you should have been doing that months ahead of schedule.
Right.
So we knew what was going to happen. Yeah. And I honestly think that's what messed up a lot of the team because it wasn't.
Routine's important.
And that's what the way you're doing it. And I've met some coaches that do that. They sit down with their clients and their coaches, their athletes, and they talk to them and they go, right, this is the way I want you to warm up. Like there's the general team warm up, but then you need to spend 5-10 minutes here. And you need to spend 5-10 minutes here. And I like that approach, like you say, the individualized approach, because then you're looking after the athlete. And it's not about you as the coach. The coach's job is to get the win, but it's also to get your athletes to perform. And if it's all about, my way or the highway to a point, I don't think you're a good coach. I think you're more ego-driven.
It don't work. It doesn't work, especially with this generation. Like they want to know that I'm talking like an old guy. I'm just 29. I'm talking like an old guy, but this generation just want to know that you care about them. Yeah. Right. They want a relationship, whether you like it or not. Your best players want to be coached, and your team wants to have a relationship with their coach. Period.
Yeah.
That's it.
Big time.
So if you're in a situation where you say, okay, this is what needs to happen. This is what I need to do. This way. It's not tending to the better good of your athletes.
Yeah, I know there's a philosophy, a coaching philosophy. I'm sure you have a coaching philosophy of like, this is how I like the game to run. But then again, that's the overview. That's the umbrella. This is how we want things to go. But then to have that happen, you need each player at his peak. So that doesn't mean everyone follow Oliver and do A, B, and C when that's the thing that's going to either psych them out or wind them up or do something that completely messes with their brain. And again, at this day and age, you need to do all that. Like we, with our team program, our strength and conditioning program, we treat them like a team, even though it's strength and conditioning and they all play different sports. Some just do the gym, and we do mindset coaching. We did an hour and a half on Saturday with them when we talked about insecurities, weaknesses, strengths, goals, challenges, hardships. Even I, like the coaches team, I talk about my insecurity as a teenager, which to them is like too long ago. And my two coaches then spoke about 2 insecurities they have. And it's just, I think it's, when I grew up, it was just go do the work. The hardest work in the room wins. there was no mindfulness kind of stuff then, or like kind of individualization of the athlete. But I think now, like you're saying, like it's definitely a bigger part of the game, and all sports, I suppose, but it's definitely a bigger part of the game of looking after your athlete on an individualized basis in the team environment is pretty big.
Yo, I can go on a tangent about this, man. Like you hit the nail right on the head. I personally found, by experience coaching, I found that the more rewarding and the best years that I've had coaching, I've done the least amount of coaching in games, right? My practices were adapted to what my players needed, but in the games, it's kind of like, once you understand that you can't control everything, you can live with yourself. Two, you can actually focus on what you can control, which is like your practices and like stuff like that. But you can't really control whether you can control the effort on whether you win a game or not, but you can't really control like, oh, every shot's gonna go and we're gonna make you can't really control these things, right? So you got to take away like brain power, like I call it brain juice. You got to take away the brain juice from like the aspects that you can't really control, right? So like when you put your efforts in like practices and things like that, man, forget about it, man. Like it's so rewarding to see at the beginning of the season, players have started from a certain level, and then see them at the level that they're at, man. So rewarding.
No, that's cool. And I like that like mentality as a coach, and just I like that idea. It in all fairness, it reminds me of when I read Phil Jackson's book of how he was like, it's all about the practice and then the game, and he tried his best not to put himself in the game. I think it was when he was with the Lakers. I can't. Yeah, I'm not. Well, it's Phil Jackson anyway, and it is a good, because you can control like what's going to happen on the game. You can't, because firstly you have a whole other you whole other team that can disrupt any plan that you have.
Right.
You can't control like anything. You can just, I suppose the only thing you can control on as a coach is keeping your players' heads on straight in a timeout, half time. So when they're on the court, you have to just go and just make sure you're just looking after them, I suppose, rather than shouting at them and telling them what to do all the time.
Right. 100%. I agree. 100%.
But I actually want to circle back to one thing that you said earlier. You were talking about obviously living work-wise as a coach, man. Coaches like making money and having to do side gigs and stuff like that. And you were saying like you need to put in, you have to sacrifice a fair bit to live the life that you eventually want to live, to have that freedom and the financial freedom. And in all fairness, everyone wants. Like, I started a company because I want financial freedom. I also want to help as many people as possible. But I don't want the company to be my sole, just all-consuming effort, because that's not what I want it to be. I want to enjoy what I do. But that, like what you said there, kind of reminded me of what a kind of Jocko Willink says, like discipline equals freedom. And it's, if you're willing to put in the work now, and put in the sacrifices now, the little like get up and train every morning, do your stretching before you go to bed, eat good food to fuel your performances, the payoff is better further down the line. The discipline will give you the freedom you want. A lot of people, and I think a lot of youths, teenagers now, they want the instant gratification rather than delayed gratification. And I think that's probably something, excuse me, that needs to be taught again, as in a kind of like hard work pays off, that kind of mentality. But it's, if you go to bed at 10 o'clock every night and get up rather than staying up till 12 on social media, you're going to have more energy to perform at training. And kind of instilling that kind of that mindset in youths of the discipline. The discipline now will give you the freedom that you want later on.
Right.
And I think that is just a general thing I like to teach people. Trying to teach to a 5-year-old right now, not going down too well. He's instant.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I did the marshmallow test with him the other weekend. I don't know if you know this. The marshmallow test is where they put a marshmallow on the counter or something a child likes on the counter, and you go, if you wait 5 minutes, you'll get 2. And then depending
Right.
on the study, did it with a bunch of kids aged between 3 and 4, and they followed the kids up until their teens or till they're in their 20s, and they found that the kids that waited the 3 minutes to 5 minutes to get to 2 marshmallows performed better in school with grades. And this is, I think, there's a couple of thousand kids they did this with. Went on to higher education and or had really good jobs. The kids that had instant gratification didn't really perform well in school or sports. And I was just like, that's pretty fascinating. So I did it with my son. And I was like, there's a marshmallow. You can have it now. And he's like, straight for it. I was like, or trying to like kind of coax him. I'll give you 2 if you wait. And it took him a while. And he still was like, I'll take the marshmallow. I was like, are you sure? You'll get 2 now if you wait 5 minutes. And he went off and he came back and he ended up taking the 2. I kind of had to coax him a little bit because I don't think he understood what it meant. But it was, it was a good instant gratification. And I think that's like not only kids and teens. I think adults want instant, like social media. Like you put up a post, want people to like it. The more likes, that endorphin hit.
Right.
But I think teaching kids long term, like you do preseason, so at the end of the season, you're still performing at your best. You know, like you put in the hard work to try and get things. So I like that. Like when you said that, it just reminded me of like discipline equals freedom. Like putting in the sacrifice to get personally to get the life that you want.
So that was the idea behind, I don't know, I have like a little series that's on like TikTok, and I post like some of the highlight reels on Instagram. It's called The Journey to the Pros. Basically, it's just an understanding. It's just an understanding that I want. It's an understanding. I want people to understand that like everything you do every day kind of adds up to the big picture, right? So if you want to be a coach, you got to do something every day to basically push you to be that, right? Now, I'm taking it a day-by-day basis, but what can you do in a day to have a successful day, right? I found that having like schedules and things like that, because what kids have a problem grasping is just this idea of time, right? As young kids, we always think we have time. We think we're invincible. We think we have time. And then at a certain point, some event has to happen in their life to be like, oh my gosh, like, it's now or never. That's where you'll notice that most athletes who are trying to get recruited, they'll only really start at their last year. If you don't actually like push them, they actually start at the last year, be like, yo, I have to do this. I have to get recruited. I have to, you know? So anything that you can do, and this is a little trick because we're, as a society, as humans, we're fascinated with numbers, right? Anything you can do that could give them concrete and tangible evidence that what you're doing right now adds up, it will play a big dividend in the end. I'll give you an example, right? And I'm sure you've seen this. Oh, a kid will be like, oh, I gotta go lift. And then they'll spend like 2.5 hours, 3 hours in the gym, right? Yeah, you were in the gym for 3 hours, but was it efficient work? Is this work, can I actually leave and say that I got better at this skill, right? So sometimes as a coach, what you have to do is maybe tell them, okay, guys, the gym is only open for 1 hour. Now kids move on efficiently because you've given them that structure. You've given them that 1 hour, be like, the gym is only open for 1 hour. Get your stuff done. Boom, boom, boom. They start going, I got to finish this. Yeah, and even, you guess what? Because you give them that structure, some of them will even do their warm-ups before the 1 hour.
Yeah, to maximize your time.
So now they're getting to understand, because like a lot of times, like, yes, you want to get to a certain level, you want to do certain things, but it's like, it's not productive. It's not effective. Efficient reps will always win, man. Efficiency will always win. Yeah, always, man.
And I remember when a coach I worked with years ago, Mike Hollis, he used to always say, he goes, if you're not doing the fundamentals, you're not winning. It's too good. And I say that in the gym. if you think, because you get like, even with our adults and stuff like that, I was like, if you think a barbell is too light for you, you need to warm up with heavier weight, then you've problems with understanding fundamentals. And if you can't do the movements with the fundamentals of lightweight or no weight at all, then there's the issue. And you're never going, you're going to get to a point where you can't move any forward because you're not fixing the basics and the fundamentals. Like, we've been locked down for 6 months now, so we're opening next month for the gym. And any member that comes back has to go through a whole fundamentals program again. Oh, but I've done that before. Yeah, but it's been 6 months since I've coached you. So you're going to go through it again. And if you want to be a member of the gym and you want to turn up, then that's how we do it. And same with our kids. We only gave our kids barbells. Or sorry, not kids, our teens barbell work. No weights. Oh, but I feel good. I said, yeah, but like let's kind of grease the groove, loosen up the joints, and get that kind of muscle mind memory back. Then we'll start moving weight during the summer. Simple. And like you said with the numbers game, I gave my teens a goal in their mindset goal. It was like, we have 11 weeks. Your goal is to hit 50 training sessions in 11 weeks.
Nice.
That's on average for a week. I said, you're on your summer holidays, you're not working. You have to get out of bed. They have to be at the gym for 8 o'clock in the morning. Because some of the parents are like, oh, no, do not get a lie. No, they don't get a lie in. They get to get up. They get up and do something they want to do. And then by the time they get back to school, they'll be able to have a lie in going to school. So they'll feel better about themselves. But yeah, it's 50 sessions they have to do. That's the goal. And if you all get 50 sessions, you'll all get a new t-shirt. It'll be earned t-shirt that we'll do. And just things like that, because they like that kind of, like you said, like that kind of dangling the carrot. Like, if you complete this, I will give you this. And there's like I said, delayed gratification. You put in all the sessions, or, like, I don't know if you do basketball camps during the summer, you sign up and you get the cool jersey on day one. Yeah. And I know camps do that. We used to do that with our kids' camps. They come in, every 20 kids wearing the FSM gear, and I look deadly for a photo. Now we only do it at the very end.
Yeah.
And you only get it if you earned it. You got to turn up, you have to have a good attitude, and then at the end of it, then you earn this t-shirt that no one else, you can't buy it anywhere. It's for you because you put in the work and time and effort. And I think that teaches kids that kind of resilience and that mental toughness to, like, and even like, it's a dangling a carrot, but it works and it helps them, I think, change their head about, like I say, like a lot of instant gratification. I want this to get it. I want the new shoes. Okay. I want the new training gear. Okay. I was like, well, you want this, and it's not an expensive t-shirt. It's a simple t-shirt.
Yeah.
But you have to put the work in to get it. And there's that, and you'll have a pride about that.
100%.
Then, like, if I gave you everything, you would discard a lot of it. But if you had to earn it, you hold on to it, you appreciate it more. And I think that's a big lesson. And coaches and youth coaches have that opportunity to instill that in young kids. And you see it with, like, a lot of sports. And a lot of coaches can instill that gratification, that niceness. Like, I don't know about America, and sorry, Canada, and you could probably tell me if it's like, in Ireland there's like football and soccer, right? And there is, I might get in trouble for things, well, if they watch it, there's an arrogance to young football players. They act like they're already making millions and they're already famous.
Right.
With Gaelic players, the sport that you don't make money in, there's a humbleness about them.
Right.
Same with rugby players. There tends to be a humbleness, when they get older, that's kind of changes. But there's depending on the lifestyle they see in the sport, they're trying to emulate the top players and walking around and trying to be, like you say, you act like a millionaire player, and you're not even there. You haven't even made it halfway yet. You're just on a pitch every weekend. And I think I don't know, like it's just from my observation with sports. I don't know if it happens in sports where you are, but there's definitely an element of that, and I think that needs to be taken out. I think coaches who want to be coaches, who want to work in any sport, anywhere in the world, the governing body should have them understanding mindset and humbleness and being a good human more so. Like everyone wants to win, I get that, but you still have to understand
Right.
the basics of being a good human and hard work and earning it and failure and all that. And I think coaches have that innate ability to teach that.
Right. No, it's true because like you see me, like I'm from Montreal, right? I'm from Montreal. The main sport over there is hockey, right? It's a big hockey. Hockey is a big thing over there. Basketball, not really, but basketball has become more of a, I want to say, as immigrant parents have come over and things like that, it's an easier sport to pick up than hockey because hockey, you got to buy equipment every year. The kids growing up, you got to change, you got to buy a lot of equipment, skates, you got to buy, it's a lot. Whereas basketball, you just need shoes, you got your shorts, you got a ball and that's it. It's way easier. Basketball and soccer, those are the main two. What I found with Montreal players, especially with basketball now rising in popularity in Canada in general, is the guys that are actually doing good. So we have like guys in the NBA. We have like three. We have Kem Birch, we have Lou Dort, and we have Chris Boucher. These guys understood that it's a underdog mentality, right? And the underdog mentality has made them have success at the level that they're at right now.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of when you're not exposed to hardships, especially young, when, your parents are either there to help you or there's just the whole aura of the sport itself is just putting you on a pedestal. I find that when adversity hits, you don't know how to handle it. Basketball not being like a main sport, we've had to find ways, right? So for me, I'm a coach from Montreal. I just moved to Toronto. To be more specific, I'm in Orangeville, so I'm at Orangeville Prep. And it's a sacrifice that I had to make. It's something that I had to do if I wanted to make this basketball thing work for me, right? I had to move away. A lot of our athletes have to move away, right? They have to go into situations where they don't have full scholarships yet. Some of them have to go to JUCO route, right? Where they have to they have to work before practices, like not live at home and things like that, right? I just think that all of that really builds you into who you are. And I think adversity is good. And that's where I think that as coaches and as yourself as a parent too, it's important to allow adversity to guide our team and guide our players. Adversity is gonna hit, but just how do they handle it? What's your relationship with wins and what's your relationship with losing? That's the main thing. Like when you win, are you full of yourself? Do you take that and be like, oh well, I won, and you let that affect your perspective on things? Or do you kind of like bring yourself back down to a middle and be like, you take the praise that comes with it and bring yourself back down to the middle? Yeah. When you lose, do you let that affect you? Or do you understand that it's part of the process and then bring yourself back there to the middle? So I think the middle ground is always like, that's where a lot of people have success. I think anytime you can be humble, like you said, anytime you can let losses not really affect you, I think that's where you could have a lot of success. And I think that as coaches, that's our best thing, help our athletes, maneuver.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think with like what you're touching on with the winning and the losing, that's a big aspect. Now, I know for me, and I don't know whether there was something wrong with me, if I won something, I can't hold on to it. Some people are like, oh yeah, like when I played in high school, I won the big game. I'm like, yeah, you're 40. It's not, if that's your highlight reel, you like there's a lot of issues there. But yeah, no, I like if I win something or if I lose something, it's kind of like, okay, I actually dwell on losing more because how could I have done it better?
Right, right,
And
right.
like if I do like if when I used to compete in weightlifting or CrossFit events or even
Hmm.
basketball, if I lost a game, what was I doing wrong? Where could I have been? How could I have moved better? And tried to use it as a learning curve. Now I'm not going to say every game I analyzed or every win I kind of moved on from, but I think that like you said, it's a good that middle ground of right, you're winning, awesome. If you lose, that's okay
Right.
too. Let's move on because dwelling on it, if you can't change what happened.
Hmm.
What was the thing? I say this to my teens. I say this to anyone I have these type of conversations. If you can't physically impact the situation, you're wasting your time thinking about it.
Right. Ooh, I
There's
like that.
no,
I'm gonna steal that.
yeah, no,
I'm gonna steal that.
I'm
That's
gonna hear
good.
that one day when you're an NBA coach or so. I'm gonna hear that. I'm like,
Yo,
bastard.
yo, that's very good actually, because it's in the now, right? If you can't
Yeah,
affect it right now, like there's no real thing. And do you ever have these situations where like you end up doing good, you win something or whatever, but then after people ask you, oh, why are you not happy about it? Why you not, it's almost like either the work that you put in, you expected it, or you just don't want to get too high on yourself, kind of thing.
yeah.
You ever
But
have those?
I kind of think, and again, this is something I heard from someone else. Another coach who was in discus and stuff. And he goes, "I've trained for years, win state championships, and then I stand on, and I get my medal, and then I'm like, 5 minutes later, I'm like, and everyone's like, yeah, you're amazing, you're doing this." He goes, yeah, and then his kind of look was when obviously looking back on his career was it was always the journey, which was the joy. Hard
100%.
work, the good sessions, the bad sessions, the fun he had with his teammates. Standing on a podium wasn't the win. It wasn't the big win for him. It was
Right.
training with his team, his element, his environment. And I like, and I'm kind of similar with that mindset. It's kind of like when for me, it's like if I ever do workshops in the gym, like I do, like we do Olympic lifting or nutrition, or we have like 20, 30 people come
Hmm.
in to listen to me talk for 2 hours or 5 hour seminar. And as soon as it's over, and people will come up and they're like, hey, that was really good, or as a feedback, I'm always like, I start just dismantling it. I could have done this better, couldn't about. And
Hmm.
they don't know that I'm thinking that, but I don't know. That's just me. I suppose that's just my outlook. I don't go, yeah, I just ran the best seminar in the
Right.
world. This is the best podcast
Right.
I've done. Rather than actually, no, I should have asked that question, or I should have kind of held back here. I should have said this, or I should have invited that. Um, and I suppose that's not everyone. That's just kind of me. But I think the journey of everything, when I look back on all the stuff that I do, I kind of like the idea of all the work I've had to put in. I like that I've had to.
Right. Yeah. No, no, no. I'm right behind you there. I'm right behind you. But I do think like with the pandemic and the everybody kind of going down, with the different routines, not necessarily having their routines specific and stuff like that. I do think lately I've learned to like take a step back and be like, pat myself on the back for some of the stuff that I've done, because I
Mhm.
think that's important. I think that when we fail, and this is a big mindset thing, and there's a whole bunch about this. That's my thing on my channels, man. Mindset is so huge. I think a lot of times we don't want to let ourselves down, but we
Mhm.
don't want to give ourselves credit. Your relationship is something that you have to tend to. So if you have to do what it is that you have to do to get yourself centered, you have to do it. But also like you have to, yes, give yourself, be hard on yourself, but also give yourself credit, because I think that can transform itself into insecurities for other people, especially if you have that negative self-talk with yourself. if you have a negative self-talk with yourself and it brings you down, it's very easy for other people to give you criticism and you not take it properly, right? So you kind of have to be open with criticism, but you kind of have to give yourself some a pat on the back, be like, yo, I did good.
We call it the criticism sandwich. So I'll compliment you, I'll then criticize you, and then I'll compliment you again. So that was a great game. Your 3-pointers weren't really on point, so we need to start working on that. But you really, really moved on the court. So you got compliment, what we want to work on, compliment. And that for a lot of, obviously we don't say that but when I work with my teens, it's like I said, that's really good. And my joke is, anytime to do something really well, I said, that was amazing, but now I want you to do better and faster. And then they know that that's me saying you did an amazing job. Because obviously you couldn't do it better and faster. And I like to kind of play around with that. But I do think, you need to give yourself a break. And that's something that I've only actually implemented through lockdown, through COVID, is that I give myself designated between 2 to 4 hours a week. It's just me. Phone off. Now, that could be watching the new Superman movie or a Marvel film, or I go out on a hike, or I go and indulge in whatever amount of food I want to indulge in. But I have to give myself, that's my reward for just me time. And I know not everyone needs it. I need, before we had kids, I used to say, Stephen, I'm having a Stephen day, which I just get up and go off, and I wouldn't come back till later. And I just go for coffees and have a nice lunch, and I'd go for a swim or go to a lake or something like that. And obviously with kids now, you can't really just get up and go. Not a side off on as it used to be. But when they're older, I'll probably get it back. But taking some time for yourself is a big thing, and a big learning curve, especially I suppose kids and teens, not so much now, but it'd be a good lesson for them to kind of learn. And then, like you say, patting yourself on the back for the good things you've done. My goal is to help people. And when people thank me for that, I take that. If I get a nice email referral or an email from a member or a message, it's a screenshot and it's sent into an email folder, and it just says great feedback. So anytime I'm having a shit day, I'll click on that and see all the positive members comments they've had. I even have a notice board in my office of just notes from members over the years that have said thanks for everything, thanks for helping, because that's what makes me get up and do my job, is that I've helped someone. It's not that I'm boasting about my certifications or of the best gym in Ireland and I'm the best coach and blah blah blah. It's not. It's like looking at that, there's a 72-year-old who I helped become stronger, and he was fear of falling. And I bumped into him, and he was saying that when he fell, he was able to pick himself back up.
That's huge.
That was catch to me. And I'm like, and then he wrote me a huge review, and I have it posted on my notice board there, because that's a reminder. It's you did help someone that one time. You have helped people. And that's where I think I get my gratitude from, is but I need to look at that. I think people need to have that a lot. Take those little wins, wherever your wins are, whatever it is. If it's you've turned up for all your training sessions, or your coach said something good, take them, write them down. And then, because everyone's going to have a bad day. I'm sure you've gone through some bad days or weeks.
Absolutely.
I've been burnt out where my head in my hands, and then it hits time, I have to go out to the gym, and then, hey guys, let's go, let's get some work done. And they have no idea that what I'm going through in the office, going, I don't know if the gym's going to survive. This is in our early years. I don't know if it's going to work. Or we walk out and there's only one kid there. I'm like, well, I better give that kid the best hour of his day. Because otherwise he's not going to come back. Then I'll have no kids. And that was it when we started growing our program. And that to our other coaches, it doesn't matter. If they turn up, you got to give them the best hour of their day. And if you're having a bad day, you have to use that mindset. Because it's not, as a coach, it's not about me. It's about helping them. And then if they ever come back and say thank you, sure, that's your justification for doing what you do.
Right. And that's where I think taking time for yourself is super important, because you're investing so much time in others, right? You're investing so much time in others. At a certain point, you're gonna have to kind of like take that time to give something back to yourself, like whether it's like go on a walk. Like my thing is like going for drives and just listening to podcasts. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Like I just like it allows me to recenter myself. I think I think where what I appreciate what you've said the most, I think, is you're helping these athletes with the mindfulness,
Mm.
right? You're having these sessions with them. I think that's what I appreciate from what you said, because I think if it all comes down to you being able to center yourself, right? By you being able to like kind of have the tools to be able to center yourself, you being able to recognize that this is what I need to accomplish in a day to feel good about myself.
Mm.
This is when I'm not having a good day, just that self-awareness.
Yeah.
I think self-awareness is key. Like just like knowing who you are, maybe I'm someone who reacts more to my coach, yelling at me. Maybe I'm someone more like that. Maybe I'm more someone who is, my coach has to walk me through something, but just that self-awareness and helping them identify the tools to help them.
Yeah.
That's why I really like that.
I think it's a bigger thing than what people, I know, like I said, even when I sat down with the teens, we do it every year, but now we're doing it more frequently. And I said, I know what I'm about to say. I know some of the questions I'm going to ask are going to sound corny and they're going to sound embarrassing. Mm-hmm. But trust me when I tell you this is for your benefit. And now I had to go ask all the parents like a few days later, how did they enjoy? Because the kids won't give me any feedback because they're kids. Right. Like, everything's too cool. Right. But yeah, I like you said, like you are allowed to have bad days, but you're also, if you get given the tools to recognize I'm having a bad day, how do I get out of it? So
absolutely.
And I think how to get out of all bad days and all situations where you're overwhelmed. And this is something I actually only learned. Like, so how am I feeling? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling right now?
Mm-hmm.
A, B, and C. How does an energetic me deal with this? Right. What step do I need to take to become the energetic me? Go for a run, go for a walk, listen to something, go hang out with some friends, go to bed early and sleep more. I think they're really big. And for teenagers and young athletes, being overwhelmed by you're not as good as the other player, or your social media, you're not you're not getting enough likes, or you're not invited to the event or the party, or you're not hanging around with a certain group. The way overwhelmed was explained to me, and I thought it was amazing. Overwhelmed is, if you envision a circle, overwhelmed is you in a circle and arrows pointing all out of the circle.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are focused, you're not overwhelmed. So you draw another circle, you put yourself in the center, and you put all the arrows on the outside of the circle facing into you. So when you're focused on facing you, you're not overwhelmed. When you focus on everything else, you end up doing nothing, which means you become overwhelmed. So it's stop like, oh, well, I don't like what such and such does. Stop following them. Outside of the mind, you can focus on yourself. And oh, well, I'm not getting enough likes. That's overwhelmed. Why do you need enough likes? Then answer, why is having enough likes, or why is having the latest pair of trainers so important? And then when you break it down, they'll go, well, actually, it's not that important. I was like, exactly. You're made to believe that having the best gear is important because that's what marketing companies do.
Right.
Have to have new, like you'll get a new pair of trainers and then the new version will come out. Like, the phones are the great example. I got the new iPhone, man. And then I was like, now we got the new iPhone. I'm like, And then I that FOMO, fear of missing out kind of aspect. I think if we can educate kids and work with kids on that, and I honestly believe that you can get to the root of all issues with children and teens by asking very specific, direct questions and getting
Yes, you
them
can.
to ask very specific and direct questions to themselves. We did this technique with our teens called the hop pen, where they have to write for 15 minutes straight. And they're not allowed to stop, not even allowed to shake out their death to write. And I don't care what they write. You can say, I hate writing this because coach makes me do this and it's a stupid idea. But eventually,
Right.
psychology on it is that after 10 minutes, you can't process like normal thought. So you'll start like stuff from your subconscious, real stuff will start coming up to the brain.
Yeah.
And I've done this a few times. Like with the adults, you do 20 to 30 minutes. That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Their teens, we did 15 minutes because I knew 20 minutes was going to be too much for them.
So what do you do with that information after, like when it gets to like the subconscious? Do you tell them to like analyze it or like whatever, like with it?
Well, for our teens, we just get them to kind of brain dump. It's like kind of brain dump, but it's a constant one. It's so
Okay.
if we're doing something specifically. So what I asked the teens is that on the 1st of January 2022, I am so happy that I achieved something. So they're in the future, and they're going to spend 15 minutes writing about they made the team, they deadlifted like 100 kilos, they're happier at home, they're closer with their parents, all that stuff. And then what you do is then you just reverse engineer. So you've made the team. What do you need to do to make the team? I need to turn up more. Okay. How many times you need to turn up? What you need to do in the next 30 days to make that happen? What can you do today to make that happen? And then we can reverse engineer to literally right now, what are you going to do to make the team to have what you're writing now to be a true fact? But also what comes up is a lot of stuff about, I don't like how such and such said things to me, or I don't like how such and such makes me feel.
Right.
It's that when it's in your head, you're internalizing it. But when you project it onto a page, you're releasing it from your brain, and you get to process it, deal with it. Like I'm doing a lot of mindset work over the last year, and some of this stuff is, and I asked one of our kids yesterday, how did you find the hop pen? And she goes, I didn't really get it, but yeah, she wrote 8 pages of information.
Right.
So go reread that information and then highlight the thing.
It's fascinating because it's a form of communication. Like you starting to, like with the internet, you have all these different ways for us to be able to communicate, right? For a lot of people, sometimes it's vlogging, right?
Yeah.
Other people, sometimes it might be just like journaling, writing into diary or something like that. This exercise you're talking about is like you're basically almost like talking to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And where I think that has like a lot of impact is because as humans, when we have an idea and it's in our head, most of the time you got to find a way to project that. You got to project it out.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have like negative thoughts about yourself or whatever, most of the times, like, the simple way where people take it, I go to the gym, don't think about it. It's just, you got to do things. If I just sit here and I start thinking, and that's why I think this pandemic has been very eye-opening to the work that we have to do. And it's deeper than just the sports that we have, is you put yourself in situations where you're isolated from your friends. You can't talk. You can't participate to your sport. You got to do this. So a lot of the work is on you, right? So now you're in a situation where you're by yourself and you're thinking, what is this person doing? And I'm not going to lie. I've had days where I'm like, just by not being able to coach, I felt like I was falling behind. I was like, man, like, what is it that I have to do and stuff like that? But the big picture, like you said, like putting the information out there in whatever form you feel comfortable with. And I think that's another part of the self-awareness, right? Some people are better with video. Some people are better with pictures. Some people are better with writing, right? Help them identify what they're self-aware with, what they identify as their strength, make them use that to their best of their ability. And then after, you'll notice like things go so much better after that.
It is. And it's the one thing that I like, because I remember the first time I did it, I wrote a lot and I got a lot out of it. Second time I did it, I went so much deeper. Third time, even deeper. Because you can only, the kind of psychology, as I said before, you can only kind of rationally think about things for 10 minutes, but then you just get your brain just start going over and starts pulling up stuff. And then you get to the root of why you're unhappy or why you're happy or why things are going wrong or why things are going right, because you're actually getting to the root source of, like, again, like if you tell me, like if someone comes in and goes, hey, I want to lose weight. Why? I want to feel better. Why do you want to feel better? I'm not happy. And it always gets back to, I'm currently not happy about how I look and feel.
Right.
And it's the same things, questions. Keep asking.
Yeah.
How do we move youth development, youth strength, youth as athletes in sports? How do we change the game and because this is all stuff that tends to be done when you make it. Like you see, like Eric Thomas, or you see all like Tony Robbins goes and talks to a team and like motivates them to win the season and all that. But my kind of thing is like, imagine starting this now, like with an 8-year-old, and by the time he's a teen and picks the sport of his choice, he knows how to deal with bad situations. He knows how to deal with win, a loss, an injury.
Right. Yep.
And then if he doesn't get picked or he doesn't go pro, he can internalize it, he can process it, and he can move on from it. I think that's the next level of coaching for coaches.
Right.
I don't think it needs to be a very specific niche or like psychology and you're going to counseling. I think this is all, if it's trained properly, it's something kids can develop themselves and use themselves to become stronger mentally, physically. And then I think it would make better athletes in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just having like that mindset. Absolutely. I agree with you. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. Sorry.
No, that's good. But yeah, like, so we've been a good hour now into this. I used to try to do podcasts like and keep them to 20 minutes, and I always went over because I don't like to kind of just go, right, we have 5 questions, let's get through our 5 questions. I like just going off topics and then you're seeing what happens. And if it flows, it flows. And because I find if we go, right, you've answered that question, we need to move to question 2. That's the way I used to do them years ago. I wasn't really enjoying them as much as I enjoyed the new ones I'm doing because they're just conversations. But you got that, you got the promotion for Orangeville Prep. So for you, I know, like on the social media and all of your posts, you're very proud and stuff like that. So that's another step for you. So I don't want to say it in a bad way, but like, so you got there. So like, what's the plan with Orangeville Prep and how you work there, and then what's the evolution of this journey that you're on?
That's a great question. I think whenever you get like a promotion, whenever you get a job, I think it's important for you to talk with like if you have like athletic directors, or you have like somebody who works over you, or like if you're an assistant coach, if you're working with a head coach or whatever, I think it's important for you to be able to communicate with these people, to be able to see what direction is possible, to see if it fits where you want to go.
Yeah.
So journeys to the pros, you guys know, like you guys can see it. Like for me, it's eventually I want to become a professional coach. Yeah. Whether it's NBA, whether it's G League, whether it's coaching in the NCAA, whether it's coaching overseas, right? Overseas for us is in Europe. So, so I think just getting the mix up, because like different people might hear different things. So yeah, for me, it would be like Europe. Coaching overseas is considered Europe. For me, the next step right now, like it's gonna be weird to say. It's gonna be weird to say, but like I think I've bounced around a lot in the past 4 years. I'm just happy to be somewhere for the next couple of years. Yeah. You know, I'm really because I've seen like the impact that I'm able to have like in the short term, but like what impact am I able to have in a long term, like a couple of years, someplace where, you know, I come in and try to affect the environment as much as possible.
Yeah.
So I've learned to, as much as possible, when you're somewhere, you got to do the best job where your 2 feet are. Right. So right now I'm just focused on being the best assistant coach, being there for the players, you know, be making myself available, helping them reach because it is the best prep school in Canada. Right. On average, we send about, I want to say between 5 to, last year we had like 8, 9 like players to go play to the next level.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my focus is like giving back to these guys and just being grateful for the opportunity that I have. Obviously, in the long term, I want to eventually end up on an NBA staff or a NCAA staff. But right now, I noticed that I have this opportunity to affect my environment. And if I take this opportunity for granted, I won't be able to get to where I want to go. So yes, I have the goal of where I want to go, but I can't be stuck on the next thing. You know, I can't move on. I gotta be good here.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it by saying you want to affect your environment, and that's. I think that's a very strong statement, because if you spend the next like 3, 4, 5, 6 years with Orangeville Prep and everything's going well, and you are creating better athletes, and that will be seen. So your environment becomes better.
Absolutely.
And then your external people will see that.
Absolutely.
Done here. But if you're chasing the next interview, then you're not affecting an environment. It's passing through. And I don't think that will be, I think a lot of people try and rush that. They're not willing to put the time into the process. And I think that's the goal, is to be a coach somewhere else, not understanding that to get there, you have to be the best now at what you're doing. You have to be impacting everyone in the best way now. And I think that's like you said, you want to impact your environment. That shows the personality that you have, which if all goes according to plan, I'd say that you will achieve your goal, because you know that the work now is to make where you are the best place.
Right. That's what a lot of people don't get stuck on. And like, that's what we were talking about before, about being able to teach the kids, right? Just helping them understand that today, I'm going to leave today better. And tomorrow I'm going to make it even better, kind of thing. Just like little things like that, you know? And it might sound little things that are trivial, but like, here we have kids that live on campus, right? And like, just getting them to understand that, okay, you have to, if you see a trash can, you know, it's not your trash, but like, it's still a reflection of you know, because you're part of a team now. Just getting them to understand that, like, take it upon yourself, take responsibility, because the reality is this, and I love giving these examples. If we can't hold each other accountable for cleaning our environment, I can't be mad if you guys don't hold yourselves accountable if somebody doesn't call a pick and roll, if somebody doesn't call a screen and somebody gets hit by the screen. You know, I can't be mad at you guys if somebody decides to slack off one day and not go get their jump shots. And nobody's able to feel comfortable enough to tell them that, you slacked today. You know? The little things make up the big picture. You know, so if we hold ourselves accountable for like little things like picking up the trash, making your beds and things like that, well, what ends up happening is that the bigger things are easier, because once we understand that, like, it's nothing personal, it's we want the best for each other.
So little victories daily. So they compound. I like that idea. It's like it's your campus, it's your environment. Like, if your parents were coming, like, it's like if you have, like, for me, like, if I have guests over, the house gets cleaned.
Right.
The toilet Boom.
Right. It's a reflection of you. Yes.
When someone goes into my bathroom, I want them to go, man, that's a clean toilet. And
Absolutely.
I say that to my guys at the gym. I said, the number one thing, and I was like, a clean bathroom means so much to people walking into it. And there's a
front door and the washroom. This is the main two.
Yeah.
Yo, man.
I think that's like that mentality that you're putting in, and then the kids. And the other thing is, like, if 2 or 3 start doing it, they'll all follow suit. They'll all follow suit. And I think that's a big thing. And you might have to repeat it multiple times and reinvent it, or like kind of talk about it from different angles. But yeah, like, we all know that if you make your bed in the morning, you're actually more productive to have a better day.
Right. I'll give you an example. You're gonna like this one. I'll give you an example. If, let's say, I fly you out and I tell you to come visit our campus, right? And then you walk into our lounge and you see there's garbage on the ground, there's towels everywhere and things like that. You're not gonna be like, oh, that must be number 44's garbage from that. It'd be like, this whole team, they're not there. I'll give you another example. If now I go to Ireland and I walk into your gym, right, and none of the weights are put away. Simple example. Is that a reflection of the gym, or is that a reflection?
And that's it. That's 100% it. Like you people, we have this, and as soon as we meet each other, it's a judgment. Do I like them or not like them?
Unfortunate, but yes, it's true.
And that's survival. That's like, is this guy going to kill me, or are we going to be mates? Does his opinions conflict with mine? And that's another thing that, like, with regards to opinion, you can have an opinion on a topic, and I might disagree with it 100%. That's okay too. I think there's a whole thing, like, if you're not on this specific train, I was like, no. I'm allowed not like what you like, but we can still get along.
Right.
Like, it doesn't affect me. I think it's funny in Ireland, and I'm sure it's the same sports all over, is that if 2 local teams are playing, they are rivals and they hate each other, and it's just sort of, but if the national team plays and they're all friends. I'm like, yeah, you know how silly it can be, because it's a judgment thing. It's like, oh well, like, you're from a different part of, like, Dublin is sectioned up into, like, there's different accents from Dublin and all over, and depending on where you are in the country, there's a slag or a joke about you, and it's human nature, and 90% of the time it's all fun. It's just a bit of banter, a bit of chat.
Right.
But no, I do get that little 1%. What you're doing right now making you a better person, which will make you a better player? Picking up the trash,
right,
make you a better person.
Can only control what you can right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. Only control.
Yeah, no, that was good, Oliver. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, man.
Conversation.
Yo, thank you so much. I actually have one question for you.
Yeah, far away.
As sports are evolving, right? As sports are evolving, like, athletes are becoming stronger, athletes are becoming more creative, athletes are becoming they're more in need of training.
Mm-hmm.
How has that shifted how you've adapted your trainings, right? So I'll give you an example. Like, we touched up about it a little bit in the beginning, but like,
hello.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. It's still recording.
Yeah. No, but like, okay, so I could talk about it. Basketball, like, it's the training, right? Back in the day, it used to be more static, like lift weights and be more static, because the game used to be more static, right? It used to be in the post, somebody's gonna post up, right? Static strength used to mean a lot, right? So now, as the game has evolved and everybody goes more to a 5-out kind of playing style, that static strength doesn't play a factor, because everything's in movement, right? So if I'm stronger than someone, if somebody comes at me with speed, I'm kind of, my strength doesn't play a factor anymore. Now it's more about lateral absorb kind of thing. You get what I'm trying to say? So like,
Yeah.
people had to rethink how they train things. So like, how has that changed your, if so, based on like the different sports that your people do, like that your athletes do, how has that changed?
Well, for me, it's I look at the sport. So, for example, with the basketball girls, for no matter what, the foundations of strength training are always part of the program. They'll always do some sort of deadlift variation. They'll always do some sort of squat or lunging variation. And until they fix mechanics, we don't do explosive work because I don't allow explosive training on bad mechanics. But for the basketball girls, they do a lot of unilateral training. So they're training left side, right side, because you're always on the foot, pretty much. And then when we do our conditioning pieces, we add in like a kind of multi-directional training in regards to what if they're using, like if they have to swing a kettlebell, they might have to do a multi-directional movement to get to the next piece of equipment. And I try and make it as game-like as possible.
Right, that's the key. I like that.
The only thing I won't do is run them because they run enough on the pitch, like on the court. Sorry, I have a judo girl who, again, I make her literally throw sandbags loads because she has to throw human bodies loads. So she has to pick up a sandbag. She has to walk for a long time. She has to squat with it. She has to throw it over her shoulder. She has to go off, do another exercise, a lot of rotational work, and then she has to go back to that sandbag. It's like, why the sandbag? It's like, well, she used to throw a 50 kilo. She's a 50 kilo judo champion. So she used to throw people at 50 kilos. So my goal is to get her comfortably throwing 60 kilo bags. Because it's as close to a human being as you're going to get it.
Right.
And if you can throw around that way for multi-directional purposes, when she's on the mat, she's going to be twice as strong. So depending on the athlete, and their weaknesses. So firstly, basing off where their weakness is, then I will build a level of strength. But then because of their sport is a performing sport, I got to get them ready for their sport. So like you said, there's no point in just doing basic strength work all the time.
Right.
It has to be a transition or something that mimics as close as you can to the sport. Like, and I'll give you an example where I actually messed up. I got it wrong. I would always teach my guys to jump in basketball, and it was always very precision jumping. And then I eventually figured out, because one of my girls kept getting a bad knee, and I figured out that when she catches the ball, her right foot is always in front of her left foot in her shooting stance. And then I started shooting, and I noticed that that's just a natural thing. When she doesn't have a ball in her hand, she'll jump perfectly. But when she has a ball in her hand, her foot changes.
Right.
How do we adapt it? We make her do all her jumping drills with a basketball.
Oh,
yeah.
So I gotta ask you this. So do you ever have situations where, like, is it all sport-specific athletes in one session, or do you have like different sports in different sessions? And if so, do you have like a specific, do you have specific workouts that you've seen that works throughout all these different sports?
Depending on the sport. So generally our strength and conditioning program is a group-based program. It is a generic, not generic, it is a GPP. So it's to help teams understand movement, and we do conditioning work. For my sports performance guys, they're all individually trained unless they're on the same team. And if they're on the same team, they'll get adaptations. Depending on the sport. So like, I don't believe a basketball player needs to run 5Ks. No benefit to the game. By running a 5K in my mind, it's a stop-start sprint sport. You need to be more explosive, and you need to be able to suck at a higher level of heart rate. You need to be able to perform. So if you're going to shoot free throws, I want you to do like 8 minutes of burpees and a salt bike, and then go do your free throws while you're completely exhausted and nearly dizzy. So engage under pressure, you're simulating that. So the goal is to try and simulate their sport. The judo girl is on the mat for a couple of minutes, so she has to put everything in. So we have to give her really intense conditioning pieces But then again, I also take into account that she is doing a lot of conditioning pieces. My basketball clients are doing a lot of sprint work in their own training with their coaches. So I don't want to overlap. So my main thing is that if I do get a new client in, and I might have a client coming in who's a prospect goalkeeper, is I need to speak to the coach and I need to speak to the parent.
Yeah, that's big.
I need to get the athlete's timetable, and then, well, this is what I can do. And then we'll give it a go. I never guarantee anything. The only thing I'll guarantee is I'll make your child stronger. But I don't know how it's going to work with your sport. So far, it's all gone positive. I make someone stronger, they perform better on the court. Like my 2 players have now made the Super League. That's the top team in Ireland for basketball, or the top league.
Nice.
At 17.
Oh, that's amazing, man.
The question was, how are you so defined? How are you so strong? It's like they deadlift and they learn how to jump. A lot of people never learn how to jump.
Yeah.
When I met them, they didn't know how to jump. They can jump. They weren't jumping correctly. So we drill the basics. And then that, like, I don't care about a vertical jump. I honestly don't. But if I make you stronger, it will all impact the game in a positive way. Once I'm not trying to jump for like 1 rep max deadlifts and stuff like that. Like this, I don't train an athlete like a powerlifter unless your athlete is a powerlifter, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. This is why you're one of the best, man. This is why I'm following your page, man. Appreciate the time. Appreciate the friendship that we've developed.
Yeah.
This is great, man. This was great.
I wish you all the best. And if you ever get offered a job in Europe, I hope it's not Ireland. No money. There's no.
Hey, we'll see. Times will change. Times could change, man. We don't know. Times could change.
We'll be unique, especially Adam. Adam, I'm like, there's a good. I like the basketball. The basketball Ireland here is cool. I think it's underfunded. It needs a lot more work. But they're getting there. It's just a slow. It's not a national sport. So I suppose, like,
no, it'll get there. Like, sports will get there.
Yeah, like it's changed from when I stopped playing.
It'll get there.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, it's been an honor. It's been a privilege to chat with you today. I really appreciate you taking time as well. And just for anyone who is watching this, I'll put I don't have his TikTok. I'm sure it's on your Instagram, but I'll put your Instagram. You can find his TikTok. It's got some really funny videos and some really good insights into coaching young basketball athletes and stars. So definitely check him out. And don't forget, if you did like the show, please give me a like and subscribe and leave a positive comment, because it makes me feel better when I hear that you like the show. It's just a good thing. And if you want me to feel 100%. Better, all you have to do is give me a like.
You're listening to the Live, Play podcast.